Welcome to Armchair Cinema. This is Jason, and this is Maren.
Hello.
Today we're talking about the film The Substance. So,
Yep.
Yeah, Maren, what do you think of this film?
I got my notes here.
Yeah, I got notes too. We had plenty to talk about for this film.
Yeah, first impressions, it was really intense. I mean, I was expecting a lot of graphic body horror and the satirical humor, which of course did not disappoint on either front, and managed to even surpass what people were talking about. It kind of put it up to a whole other level for me.
Yeah.
Which I really wasn't expecting. It's not like the craziest I've ever seen in my life, but certainly more than I would expect out of, a movie with such crossover appeal.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many Cronenberg films, so I wasn't really sure what to expect too much. All I heard was this movie is kind of gross and lots of Cronenberg.
Yeah, I would say that Cronenberg tends to be even a little grosser. Maybe just because he tends to get into the more sexual imagery, whereas there was less of that here.
There was plenty of sexual imagery.
Well, yes, but not applied in the same way Cronenberg does. It was a bit lighter than the humor than I actually had originally expected, but that did not, detract from the film at all. And the prosthetic effects did suffer a bit under harsh lighting. However, I would say that actually improved the point of the movie, right?
I read on Wikipedia, the most trustworthy source there is on the internet.
Absolutely.
That's why Elon Musk wants it so bad.
Oh, yeah.
That actually, a lot of that was intentional. That was like...
Exactly.
That they, the director was like, make this look a little less real.
Right. And also it mirrors, because the movie is so much about like how women are taught to perceive themselves under that harsh lighting, right?
Right.
So these women are generally taught to view themselves under the harsh fluorescent lighting in bathrooms as they're doing their makeup, and that's how they're taught to see themselves. So it's really cool that it mirrored that in the way it presented a lot of its graphic effects.
I know I said this as soon as the film was over when we were watching it in the theater.
Yeah.
But it bears repeating. Here's a list of things I won't willingly do for a while after seeing this movie. Eat, sleep, have sex like ever. But going back to the graphicness of the film, visceral is the word.
Oh,
visceral is
definitely.
definitely the word that I had. I said, what did I say? I said, if you're not prepared for this movie, you're going to have a bad time. Hell, you can prepare yourself for the movie and still have a bad time. But that's not to say that movie should be avoided.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, no, it's a great film.
Absolutely stunning movie.
Mm-hmm.
About the hypersexuality, I actually really proud of this bit in my notes that I wrote.
Oh, good.
This is fantastic. It aggressively jams so much hypersexualized, objectified femininity in your brain, you can't help but feel like you want to brain vomit it back out. It makes you sick on it, then contrasts it hard against the most grotesque, vile body horror it can muster until you're sick on that. In a few moments between, it pauses to remind you can't have one without the other.
Exactly. Yeah, I was actually just thinking the film will give you lots of eye candy, but for every bit of like eye candy you have, if you want to look at Demi Moore's body and I'm sorry, I forget the other actress that she's playing.
Margaret Qualley.
Yes, her. Both very lovely ladies, and it showcases that very much so. But boy, how does it make you pay for it? You will pay for every moment you objectify these women.
Yeah, absolutely, and the movie really jams their bodies into your faces without mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And it is in its own way sickening.
You noticed you talked about how the movie, a bit about the cinematography, how the movie just kind of showcases these women's bodies. Yeah. I noticed that a lot of it was kind of well over the top, but also kind of minimalist in the way it photographed these people. There's no like huge, grand sweeping like landscape shots or anything.
Right. Yeah, it's very constrained and formalistic in that way.
I put in my notes that was cinematography mirrors that of an Apple commercial. Minimalist views to showcase a shallow, dehumanizing depiction of women.
Right. Yeah, definitely I can see that influence of the Apple commercial also in its color palette being very stark white with bright colors accenting images.
I put this movie as like a love-making session between David Cronenberg and Michael Bay's Victoria's Secret commercials, during which Cronenberg was ashamed of himself and David Lynch was watching through the window.
Now, you know what I noticed? You didn't. There's a director I think there was some influence you didn't mention there. Did you detect a bit of Gilliam?
Gilliam, you say?
Gilliam.
I didn't notice any Terry Gilliam.
I noticed a lot of those wide-angle lens close-ups that he absolutely adores using.
Well, a wide-angle lens is cinema shorthand for this is getting messed up.
Well, yes.
Things are getting a little bit strange.
Yes. I think the whole, surreality going on there also just kind of made it feel a little Gilliam-esque.
So what is the substance about?
Well, we're going to try and keep things as vague as possible, at least for when it comes to the finale. But to keep it as simple as possible, Demi Moore plays a workout TV show star.
She goes by Elizabeth
Sparkle. Yes. And because she's aging, her producer decides her career is at an end. And then she hears about, there was the car accident or whatever.
Yeah, that car accident's kind of blown over.
Yeah, there was a car accident and she's in the hospital, and from an orderly, she hears about a mysterious treatment called the substance.
To make a better you.
Yes, and the substance has a few rules. You have to spend 1 week as your better self, 1 week as the Matrix or your original self, and...
you can only use the substance once.
Exactly. You can only use substance once, and you have to alternate week to week. And it's important to remember that both you and the better self are the same.
You are one.
The movie repeats that quite a bit. You are one. And so she takes the substance, and the better version of herself that she becomes, she uses to get onto the successor to the workout show, and...
aptly titled The Show.
What was the show?
I'm pretty sure it was just called The Show.
No, I think it had a name. Pump It Up.
Pump It Up, yes.
Pump It Up, or something like that. With Sue is what she calls herself. Mm-hmm. So she begins to spend more time as Sue and less time as Elizabeth, and
breaking one of the rules.
Breaking one of the rules, abusing the substance, and things just spiral out from there.
Very, very out there.
The final form that Elizabeth herself takes, that actually kind of reminded me of a lot of the way Gilliam would construct some of the surreal imagery in Brazil. I don't know if you've seen Brazil recently.
Oh yeah, I've seen Brazil. Not recently.
Yeah, like the weird baby-faced hunched over things. Just a weird visual connection.
That's something I haven't thought about that in a long time. Getting to the surreal nature of this film. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of things that are very unrealistic into it, and it does that very like almost. I wouldn't say almost deliberately as much. I would say as much as it is rubbing it into your face. Mm-hmm. Like the way that Dennis Quaid's character is all the dialogue in this film is very much so like to the point. There's no there's very little talk. There's very little banter between characters.
Right.
And whenever they talk very quickly. Mm-hmm. Kind of like you do this.
Right.
Kind of adding to that surreal atmosphere. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's where the David Lynch part came into me. I
could see that. Yeah, as Lynch
part of Mulholland Drive for me.
Yeah.
Especially with the colors and the setting.
Yeah. Definitely the setting. That setting was wild, right?
Yeah.
The way that the billboards were so vague. They it would be new show, but it wouldn't say what network or when it is.
No, or give it a title or anything.
It was highly symbolic.
Yes.
Yeah. The movie's very symbolically focused. It's not interested in creating an immersive world.
No, and it's not very subtle about subtlety.
No. There's little subtlety.
It freaking has a message to say, and it will shove that message into your face and make you eat it.
That's what we want tonight! Pretty girls should always smile!
Yeah, and then vomit it back up.
And yes.
And then rub your face in that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you might do that anyways when you see all the special effects.
Oh, I live for that stuff. Absolutely.
I put that in my notes that I pay attention the entire time for this film. I did not look away, but I heard the rest of the audience cringe.
Oh my god. I had a lovely person sitting next to me who just, every time something gross happened, just couldn't help but vocalize, whether it was a literal, ew, that's gross, or a cringy sound. It was wonderful sitting next to her and getting that reaction. And, I mean, I have a pretty strong stomach for this stuff, and I found myself cringing and wanting to look away a lot of the time. I haven't felt that way since I watched Prometheus back when I was a teenager.
Really? Prometheus? I haven't seen Prometheus.
Yeah, there's a scene where a main character gets a sort of ersatz cesarean section. That's a lot
of words.
Yes. Ersatz are makeshift, anyway. Pulls a alien squid out of her.
Oh. Yeah. That sounds like fun.
And then because it wasn't, it was done by an automated surgery machine, and because the automated surgery machine wasn't designed for this, it put her up using staples. It was brutal.
Well,
that was the first time I ever looked away from a movie.
All right, people.
In the theaters.
You have 2 assignments. Watch The Substance. Watch Prometheus. Which one made you more sick? Judge that.
It's probably going to be The Substance.
There's a lot of allusions to birth in this movie.
Yes, I actually didn't notice that until I watched and listened to a few other people talk about the movie. But it's so obvious in hindsight. There's even a line, complete lack of subtlety. It stops at 50. You could take that as
what stops at 50?
You could take that as not talking about her career. No. That could be referring to menopause.
Menopause, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that she keeps when she first puts the substance into her, she throws up a lot of fluid,
green fluid,
green embryonic fluid or whatever.
Yeah, and the first shot of the movie is an egg.
Yes.
Is an egg. First thing you see before anything else. Yeah.
Not subtle in the slightest bit.
Yeah. Because I've borrowed the movie from the library, so I've basically seen it twice now. I didn't really sit down and watch it, but I skimmed around. And the care which was taken with every bit of image is wild. That opening egg shot, the second egg yolk that comes out of the first is rounder and shinier than the initial egg yolk. I don't know how that was managed, but that's really cool. They put that care and attention to detail into that opening shot.
I will say, I think there were a couple times when the lack of subtlety was a slight detriment. At some point, I kind of go, I get it.
Right,
there's... It's just small scenes. There's the part near the beginning when she's got that basket and it says, "You were awesome." And you can that was it was I get that. That's awful. That's an awful thing to say to her. Yeah. And then it zooms in on the word.
On the word, yeah.
I thought about that the first time. I don't need a second time.
Yeah. I took it as bringing us into Elizabeth's subjectivity. Mm-hmm. And it's actually kind of something that Lynch does as well. It's just his symbolism's a lot more subtle. He'll often focus on small details to bring us into a character's subjectivity, but of course his symbols are a lot more complicated than just were.
Well, there was the other part where Sue was with this man. They were in the process. They were in the throes of passion.
Yes.
And she's going through a withdrawal sort of thing.
Yes.
And she runs to the bathroom and gets a little bit more of the
stabilizing
fluid, graphically taken from Demi Moore's spine.
Yeah.
And she comes back, and the guy's like, "Wow, you're even more beautiful."
Yeah.
That's the only problem I've had with the script, though, was that one line.
Yeah, I mean, when you can say that as one bad line is the only thing you can say negatively about the script, it's wonderful.
The only other issue I had, I think I told you about this in the theater. Just it's really obvious when they use a green screen.
Oh yeah,
you can I think there's one shot where they're zooming into a television screen and it zooms out, and you could definitely see some pixels.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that it did not have the budget of The Lord of the Rings, because of course, why would it? It doesn't need that anyway. Going in, you have to expect a little bit of...
A little bit.
Yeah.
Just green screens are so they're not that difficult to use.
No, that's true. They aren't that difficult to use. And
I've used a green screen.
Yeah. It could have been a time thing as well. I don't know what the production of this movie was like. I didn't research that at all.
No.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if I really had any problems with the movie. It was kind of like a perfect 10 for me.
It's movies like this are more of an experience.
Something I remember we differed on a little bit.
Oh yeah.
This is going to be a fun discussion.
Conflict.
It will be spoilery, but the ending.
Oh yes.
Yes, we differed a little bit about the ending at the in the theater. So I'll introduce the topic. You go on ahead. Tell me what you think of that ending.
Those of you who don't care about spoilers, the ending has Elizabeth and Sue and in a conflict where Sue actually kills Elizabeth. And as Sue is going through a sort of a withdrawal, 'cause she needs that fluid from Demi Moore's body, from Elizabeth's body, she, in desperation, before this big show, takes the substance another time. That is against the rules. And in fact, I think the first thing they tell you when you take the substance is for one use only. Mm-hmm. And she gives birth basically to this horrific monster that is like Elizabeth and Sue violently mashed together with their organs and sexual parts all over the place, like in all the wrong areas.
With a very cheesy title card, Monstro Eliza Sue.
Yep.
And so she goes to the show and still performs, and she creates this delusion in her mind that everyone thinks that she's beautiful.
That was the first ending for me. She comes in and we could have left the note of she finally gets what she wants, but it's a lie.
But then she gets in front of the crowd,
and she breaks out of this dream note where she's literally there in front of everyone, and she has this moment that's taken almost directly from The Elephant Man.
Yep.
Did you see that? Well, no.
I actually totally forgot. I forgot my homework.
Oh
wow.
That was the most Lynch inspiration for me was The Elephant Man, where she says, "No, I'm still me," and the entire crowd flips out and they're disgusted. Some people are throwing up. Some people are they're throwing things at her.
And then one of the audience members blows her head off.
That was the next ending.
Yes.
That's where it could have ended again. But no, the film keeps going.
But no, it keeps going. She grows a new head. But then her arm falls off and starts spraying geyser of blood all over the venue. It's wild.
I understand that, again, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
That was, like, the director had said, I want fire hoses of blood. And someone said, that must be a French way of saying that you just want lots of blood. No, that was literal.
That was very literal. Absolutely.
And the film keeps going.
It keeps
going, where after that ending, she escapes from the theater, from the venue, and she's running, and then just kind of falls apart.
Yep.
I mean, like, in a literal sense.
Yeah, just puddle of goop.
Yep. Blood everywhere. And that's another part where it could have ended. That's the third ending. But then the movie goes on for a few more minutes where her face is kind of rises out of the goo in like this weird sort of jellyfish, starfish kind of thing. And it crawls over to her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, whatever. Yeah. And she just kind of dies there, looking up at the sky.
Yep.
And that's where the movie ends.
Yeah.
4 endings.
So you can tell from my utter glee, I just adore this ending so much. Because honestly, otherwise, the movie's a downer. A big fucking downer.
I would say the movie's a downer regardless.
I mean, it is a downer regardless, but I think that campy gore explosion at the end really helped me move beyond the depressing pity that I felt for Elizabeth and Sue, and eventually Monstro Eliza Sue. It isn't to say I didn't pity her at the end. It's just it allowed me a little bit of campy fun after I was honestly like getting close to tears when she was like preparing for the show, putting the the earring in her head
and the stapling like a face.
Yeah, the cutout picture of her own face.
Yes.
And of course the attempting to curl her hair and it comes out. That was heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. So I really did kind of enjoy a bit of a campy explosion at the end.
I couldn't find that funny in any way. I saw it. Oh, this woman is getting lower and lower and lower and lower. I would any one of those endings would have been a good ending for me.
Yeah.
And I think that it's not tacking 4 endings together. It's just one ending after the other. I can't tell if that makes it better or if that makes it somehow a little bit worse.
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
I think in that way it is marginally less elegant than the infamous ending to Return of the King. Because at least Return of the King, if you really thought about it, if you did cut them off, like, with the hobbits not bowing to Aragorn, I should say, that would be a little weird. Well,
Lord of the Rings was a journey.
Right.
And it wanted you to see... And part of an epic is going back home.
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously that wasn't as necessary here in the Substance.
Maybe not, but... I mean... I could be completely off base here. I could be completely wrong about this, and I'm willing to admit that.
Yeah.
I'm a big enough man to admit that I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I called it an extended ending, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just, it could be part of the point, too. Whenever you think this woman has reached her lowest point, someone throws her a shovel, and she keeps digging.
Right. Definitely makes it a tragedy, but I think that because it was done so over the top, it helps the movie from being just... a really depressing watch.
Well, that's one thing I like about horror is that without the scary element of horror, most horrors are just like tragedies.
Yeah, really they are. Fundamentally, I mean, everyone dies in a lot of them.
In horrific ways.
Yes, absolutely.
And this one, the tragedy is this is a woman who doesn't have very much beyond her looks.
Right.
And that's being slowly taken away from her, just her career and her youthful appearance.
Yeah, that what society's taught her to value and all society has ascribed to her in value is disappearing. And there's nothing she can do about it, really. I mean, she tries the Substance, sure, and if she did stick with the whole like week on, week off regimen, she could have lived this half life, but it would have been a half life.
Well, it goes out of her way to show that Elizabeth, at least, she feels like she can't compete with Sue.
Right.
There's that part where she gets herself ready for a date with.
Yeah. That scene hurt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was so painful.
What's his name? Fred?
I think so.
Yes. I guess that's another part that was kind of weird for me is that they make Fred not look very appealing to talk to. He comes in and he's kind of hi, I'm Fred. I'll have to talk to you a bit. And he doesn't look like the kind of person that Elizabeth would want to hang around with. But when she stands him up, it's brought out as tragedy,
right? Rather
than a relief of I'm glad I don't have to talk to that guy,
right? Yeah, because I mean, she did promise to meet him, and then she got in her own way. Well, sort of. I mean, obviously, it was the social pressure. Wouldn't want to necessarily blame Elizabeth for her own problems in this particular circumstance.
Exactly.
But yeah, the pressure that the world puts on her, and I think they kind of made him a little awkward and dorky as a way of explaining that he obviously wouldn't care about how she looked. Not really.
Not to the extent that everyone else does.
Right. I think at worst, he's interested in her because she was famous. But I mean, even then, when he talks to her and talks about her, it's, oh, we were in school together. Not, oh, you're the amazing Elizabeth Sparkles.
He does say something like along those lines, though. He does say like, "Oh, your career and everything, you're still as beautiful as you were when we were kids," or something like that.
Well, yeah, when we were kids.
Yeah,
he's referring it back to being in school together, and not to her show, not to her fame.
That's true.
It shows that he's less interested in the fame than he is in who she is as a person. I think they could have developed that more, but I mean, the movie's already. How long is it? It felt pretty long.
It was a decent length. It was a good length with all those endings tacked on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said tacked on.
They're not quite tacked. Yeah, it's 2 hours 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So to develop that plot line more would have been an imprudent use of time, I think.
Yeah. I just think that the character, if we wanted to see Elizabeth with that character and having denied that to us, it would have been interesting if Fred was more of a character that we wanted to see her with.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. I honestly kind of liked. I thought his awkwardness was kind of charming, in its own way.
Well, I mean, I'm awkward as hell, so I see him and I think, oh God, that's me. What am I doing talking to Demi Moore?
I mean, it would be all of us talking to Demi Moore, because Demi Moore, right? Mm-hmm. Just wow. She's like 20 years older than me. Anyway.
That kind of goes to show that she didn't have to live a half life. She could have lived both lives fully, but she feels like she can't compete with the other. The one side can't compete with the other. Yeah. So that's kind of a big self-destruction thing.
Yeah, now, that's another thing I really like about this movie. I see a lot of people online, because obviously I just go on YouTube videos and read the comments because I'm a dumbass. So, I mean, I went online, I see a lot of people talking about Elizabeth and Sue as if they are two separate characters, or as if they don't share consciousness. Mm-hmm. Like, I could see how someone could watch the movie and come out of it thinking that Sue doesn't remember what happens as Elizabeth, and Elizabeth doesn't remember what happens as Sue. But I think it's very clear that they do. And they are one continuous person. One, the movie's practically yelling it in your ear every chance it gets with the whole repeated, remember you are one. But I mean, has no one woken up from a terrible night and been like, shit, I really fucking did that, didn't I? Damn it. You know?
That's a lot of my time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we've all had a situation like that. You're like, oh God, I acted like a total asshole last night.
And that's why I go to therapy.
Yeah. The movie did a really good job, I think, of bringing that experience to the character, where, you know, you have an incredibly self-destructive night where you drink too much or you eat a bunch of gross shit, and, you know...
That's another thing. I never want to eat rotisserie chicken again.
Rotisserie chicken's delicious.
Not anymore, it isn't.
But yeah, and you wake up and you see the state your apartment's in, or you know, look at your text messages and you're like, oh fuck, I did do all that, I was an asshole, you know.
Self-destruction.
Yes, movie's very much about self-destruction.
There's a lot of imagery of her when she first injects the substance, where she actually ties a thing around her.
Yeah, just like you would use for
heroin, for any sort of for a lot of injectable drugs.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely that going on.
I would be curious to see how Elizabeth or Sue interact with other like models or other women in her life.
Yeah, we actually don't see her interact with a lot of other women, which is interesting because, at least I've heard, a lot of social pressure to look pretty comes from comparing oneself to other women. We don't see a lot of that.
No, we don't. That's why I'm so curious about it, because I want to know. Elizabeth is mostly reactive in this story.
Yeah.
She takes it upon herself to take the substance, and she makes lots of choices there, but everything that kind of comes afterward is kind of happens to her.
Right.
That's not a criticism, but it makes me wonder.
I mean, her main decision is to abuse the substance. Mm-hmm. That is pretty much the only decision she makes throughout the whole movie. Well, there's a couple other things. She decides she wants to kill her other half and then decides not to. But the main central thing she decides throughout the whole movie is to abuse the substance.
So I'd just be curious if is she capable of learning from this? Like, would she go to another a model and you know, give her friendly advice, or would she be toxic to her? That's something I kind of want to know.
We kind of get a little bit of that with the guy that offered her the substance in the first place, where we see him initially when he's pretty offering her the substance, but then later when he's in his, original but Matrix body. That's what they call it, the Matrix. We see him essentially say, yeah, no, this is a dumb mistake. You shouldn't do this. So it kind of mirrors that cognitive dissonance that Elizabeth and Sue experience, where they have very different attitudes towards their use of the substance depending on which body they're in. He probably does too, and that is a way of demonstrating how Elizabeth/Sue would interact with another person who might be wanting to take the substance.
For me, it was like I guess I wanted to know more about Sue and Elizabeth as they are as individuals, as people. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's on the film to show me that. I think that's just a question I have.
Yeah. Well, you kind of did it. You said they were two different people.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I couldn't help but point that out, because it is very important that they are not.
It's not, but the movie does make it like, it does tell the story as if they were two different people.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, and there is a point where they do literally become two different people. But I mean, that's a whole other weird thing. And actually, the way that it's done ties more into the idea of self-destruction, as well as, and instead of necessarily diverging them as two different characters.
Sue literally kills herself.
Exactly. Sue killing Elizabeth rather brutally. One of the most brutal, I can't even call it a fight scene.
No, that was a very one-sided fight scene.
It was not really a fight. That was brutal.
Mm-hmm. That's visceral, again, is the word of the day.
Oh, yeah. Probably the part of the movie where the visual effects looked the most realistic.
Have you seen the film Seconds with Rock Hudson?
No, I haven't.
It has a very similar vibe to this. It's about it's been a long time since I've seen it too. I saw it in film school, with the film students that also hated me. So
I was there too.
No, you weren't there that night. In fact, I'm pretty sure this was before we met.
Okay. Well, I was in film school with you.
Yes, but this was before we even met. It's called Seconds. It's about Rock Hudson's character. Before he becomes Rock Hudson, he's an old man, and he has lived his life, and he kind of wishes he had another chance at it. He wishes he was young again. And a friend comes up to him and says, I know these people that can make you young again. They do a surgery on him, and when he wakes up, he looks just like Rock Hudson. He's young and handsome again. Mm-hmm. And while he's kind of in this sort of drunken, delusional state, they're like, so, okay, about your new life, what would you like to be? And he's kind of like, I would like to be an artist. Mm-hmm. And they give him a new house, they give him a new job, a new everything. So he has now a second life. His name Seconds.
Right. Interesting.
And the interesting thing about it is that Rock Hudson himself was leading a double life. He was gay.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In a time when that was completely unheard of. It has those interesting parallels.
Yeah. And you kind of wind up seeing that a lot with I don't know if it's something that where queer actors are just drawn to those roles, or if it's just like,
or the roles are being written for them.
Or I would say that it's probably more the former than the latter, because a lot of it's hard for an out queer actor to get an actual movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you kind of saw that with some of Anthony Perkins's roles. And anyway, so this also reminded me, just on a purely aesthetic level, of Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, which I know you haven't seen.
I haven't seen. You have to tell me about it.
So Dead Alive is it's pretty much a straightforward zombie movie, except extremely gross out.
Is that the movie with the I Kick Ass for the Lord?
Yes. Oh my God, such a fun line. There's this pastor guy who comes out of basically nowhere. I mean, he has a couple of lines earlier in the movie. Working with a coroner who's a secret Nazi. That's beside the point. Which is a funny joke in the context of the movie. But anyway, yeah, he just jumps into the middle of a horror scene. This is pretty much, I kick ass for the Lord, and starts beating up a bunch of zombies. But anyway, that's all beside the point. So the movie ends in an orgy of zombie gore, to say the least. Mm-hmm. The zombies have basically taken over this New Zealand town, because it's a Peter Jackson film, it's shot in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. and they're all converging on this mansion where the main character is, and there's this beautiful scene with a lawnmower, and it's wonderful. But anyway, the main character's mother, who's kind of like the source of all the main character's problems, turns into this giant, hideous, mutated monster with huge boobs and a big... Yeah. No, doesn't that sound familiar?
I've had a couple teachers like that.
Yes, but also a little bit of Eliza Monstrous who reminded me of that.
Oh, that's where you're going with that.
That's where I was going with that.
I thought you were setting it up for a joke.
No, not really.
Okay. I apologize to my teachers, except the ones that were mean to me.
Except for the ones you... But yeah, no, a little bit of Eliza Monstrous who, of course, a completely different kind of movie. Give you an idea. The big crazy thing that happens is her belly opens up and she gets the main character dude in her womb and he cuts his way out. Blood goes everywhere.
Not very subtle there either.
No! They do it's the whole smothering mother kind of thing. Yes. So, yeah.
So, like, would you say that you said it was a purely aesthetic level of that?
Yes, purely aesthetic.
I don't know, because because that sort of motherhood theme.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, it's so angry against the mother figure for being, overbearing and
this is more of like the egg, the mother, the giving birth. It's more like, this is how I contribute to you and this is how you treat me. You dehumanize me and you treat me like an object.
I can see that reading. I was kind of going more in the direction of aside from looks, that's like the only other way that society teaches women to be valued.
You've shut my mouth.
Yeah, that's another one I have to admit I kind of picked up from online discussions. I would like to credit whoever gave me that idea, but I don't remember who it was. Someone in some comment section who was actually being intelligent for once.
I don't. That's the part of this whole conversation I don't believe.
I know, right? Someone in a comment section would be intelligent. Women lose that after a certain...
It goes away
period.
After 50.
Exactly. It goes away after 50. That was a great line.
A line fed to us by Dennis Quaid, who is just devouring some
He's
shrimp.
Having so much fun in the movie.
Yes, and eating towards us.
God. Yeah, that scene was gross.
That was probably... As horrifying as all the body horror was, that was probably one of the grossest parts of this entire movie, was Dennis Quaid eating shrimp.
Eating shrimp. The grossest way you could possibly eat shrimp.
Okay, so Maren, would you recommend The Substance?
Yes, 100%, except if you're, squeamish.
Yes, there... I've had to tell a couple people that, this is a great movie, I loved it. Don't go see it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you can get a hold of a copy, obviously it's probably going to be out of theaters by the time you see this.
It's earned its Oscar nom.
And one win.
I didn't. What did it win?
Makeup and hairstyling, which I'm a little disappointed in.
That's almost ironic.
Yeah, and guess what? Demi Moore lost to someone younger.
Of course.
As people have been saying online, literally the plot of The Substance.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm sure, and I don't want to cast any aspersions on Mikey, whose name escapes me, last name escapes me, who was the lead in Anora, who won. I'm sure she did an outstanding job in that movie. I've heard nothing but good things about it. But it is a little funny that Demi Moore lost to someone younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I would definitely encourage everyone to see this film as soon as they can, if they're able to stomach it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. I've heard it compared to Cronenberg's The Fly.
I've seen most of The Fly. I think I kind of missed out on the ending because I had somewhere to be.
I refuse to watch The Fly because I do not have the stomach for it.
So a connection with The Fly that I did notice, just to bring it all, the discussion all going back in here. But part of the main plot of The Fly is that Brundle is his name. Mm-hmm. Brundle becomes a better version of himself when he goes through the teleporter. Which is very, very much a Cronenberg idea. Cronenberg's very interested in the effects of technology on the human body, obviously. Mm-hmm. It's like what every single one of his movies are about. So, it's interesting that we have this shared idea of a technology making someone a better version of themselves, which exacts a deep cost.
Yeah.
As, Brundle loses his humanity and becomes a fly man.
In that way, it kind of reminds me of, you're going to laugh at this, The Nutty Professor.
No, I totally see it.
That sort of...
Yeah, it's the same kind of idea.
Where Jerry Lewis has to stop at the end and go, you have to live with yourself, because look at how much time you have to spend with yourself.
It all comes back.
It all comes back to Jerry Lewis.
No.
That asshole.
No. Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde.
It goes all the way back.
Yes, it goes to Jekyll and Hyde. And what we've been telling the story over and over again, but in interesting, unique ways.
Yeah.
All right, that was the Armchair Cinema. Armchair Cinema. We'll see you next time.
Whenever that is.
Whenever that is. That will at a time and place. Probably here.
Probably here.
Goodbye, everyone.